Good morning. We thank everybody for coming. My name is Aaron Thomas. When you see Ed Thomas Family Foundation, my father was Ed Thomas. I'm the oldest son. Okay, so I'm also the principal here at Appleton Parkersburg as well as the boys basketball coach. But we thank you for coming. And this is our second one of these we did when we had our first Ed Thomas Leadership Academy in the fall, and we had to turn schools away. We had 450 or more kids here then. All right. So people ask, hey, will you do this again? And I will tell you, we are honored that you're here, okay? Couple things. Today, I can promise you this. You will get out of this what you put into this. If you're viewing this as a day where I don't have to go to school, I'm going to come hang out with my buddies and jack around, that's what you're going to get. You will leave here with nothing more than homework from not being at school today, okay? But I will tell you this. My guess is each and every one of you were selected to be here for a reason. You're either a leader within your school right now or somebody sees potential in you, and they want you to be here to become better, to make a difference in your community and your school. And that's 100% on you today to get better. Because one thing, and you're going to hear a lot of different things today out of myself, out of Coach Kearns, of things my father once said. And one thing he always said is you either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. So your opportunity today, what's in front of you is you can either get better or you can get worse. But you're not going to leave here the same, okay? You're not going to leave here the same, all right? I'm excited because, I'll go out and I'll speak to student bodies, and I know we got Clayton Ridge here. They're going to hear me. I just spoke up there last week. Some of you, you're going to hear things that you've heard before, but from a different person, sometimes a different perspective. And when I talk to full student bodies, I get every student in that school, some that don't want to be there. But my excitement for today is that I think this is the best of every single school that's represented here today. So I know for myself personally, I'm extremely excited for you to be here. I'm excited, and I hope you're challenged today, that you think about your leadership, you think about the impact and the difference you can make in your school and amongst your peers. All right? I will tell you, the group of speakers you're going to hear today, if your school had to pay for each of these people we're going to talk to you individually, it costs your school about $5,000. All right? As a group. With what you get today, with your T-shirt, with those booklets, your lunch, all that thing, it was only $10 a student. We do this. The reason we have to charge money is otherwise we're in gift law violation, and when we can't give you that stuff. I will tell you, though, if you're going to wear the Ed Thomas Family Foundation T-shirt, if you're going to use our lantern as your key thing, whatever it might be, I ask this. On days you wear that, if not every day, you represent us in a positive manner. Okay? We take pride in the Ed Thomas Family Foundation. To us, the Ed Thomas Family Foundation means something special. So if you're going to wear that, I just ask that you wear that thing, understanding what it is you represent. My hope for today is you understand a little more about what this thing means, about the difference in the impact you can have. Okay? That's my soapbox, that's my spiel. We'll have short breaks after every speaker. When you leave the auditorium, we got both exits, go down that long hallway, there'll be a mural. Okay, we have the boys' locker rooms are on the first two. Gals, your locker rooms all the way down. Use those restrooms. There's a lot more space. I ask you that you don't go down our two academic wings, as we still have school today. Okay, so I ask that you stay out in the commons, in the practice gym, or down that hallway for the restrooms. Please don't disrupt the rest of our learning day. We'll still have bells probably go on. Just deal with that. Go through it. Sheets. There's some couple different sheets. Leaders in your booklet that you'll fill out over lunch. You'll have time to have a discussion with your school. There's also a loose sheet in there for a self-evaluation of where am I as a leader. Those are the things you're going to have about a 45-minute lunch break. Okay, so you're going to eat, you're going to have time. Then we ask you to get together with your group. You go through some of those things. Okay, social media. Okay, we got that. All right, we ask if you'd follow us at Thomas Family Foundation. One thing you'll find is we have a thought of the week every week. Okay, so we encourage you to follow us. Okay, you can go ahead and get your phones out even right now. I'm not your teacher. I'm not taking it, putting them all on my desk. Okay, that's where we're at on Twitter, Ed Thomas Family Foundation. Facebook, kids don't ever use Facebook, so we might as well not even talk about that. All right, the next thing on today, if you have something said today that you really like or something you're excited about, you learn, we ask that you hashtag ETFF. All right, for that, do that throughout the day, preferably during breaks. Don't be on your phone when Mr. Kearns is talking because he doesn't understand technology yet and he'll think you're just being disrespectful. For me, I'm going to just assume you're taking great notes, okay? The next thing with that, if you have a question today, okay? Do we have that one, Kelly? If you have a question, what we might do, if we have a little free time after lunch, we'll get all of our speakers up here. So if you have a question about something, go ahead. That's an example. Hey, Ed Thomas Family Foundation, how tall is this guy? What movies have I seen him in? Okay? Hopefully you're not asking that, but then hashtag it. We'll go through. We'll have somebody back there working on that. All right? Enough of the rules, regulations. I do got to make sure I thank Iowa Sports Supply and Hy-Vee for all they've done. Mr. Kearns, who you'll hear later, my wife Ellie put in a lot of work and effort, and then Kelly in the back with our sound. Without those people, this thing wouldn't happen. I'm going to start today, and if I've been to some of your schools, you've seen this clip. But for some of you, we're getting older. Our family received the Arthur Ashe Award for Courage in 2010. I got to go to the ESPY Awards. Okay, and ESPN has a ton of money, and they put together a great clip. So I'm going to show you this clip. This kind of personifies how we started this thing. This, you'll see clips of my dad. It's a year after the tornado. Okay, in 2008, this school was not here. On May 25th, completely destroyed by an EF5 tornado. It destroyed 1/3 of our town. All right, so all of a sudden we had ESPN and all these places coming to Parkersburg and following us. So I'm going to show you this clip so you understand a little bit of who my father was and how we got started on this journey with the Ed Thomas Family Foundation.
Whole day of Friday is pretty much gauged towards the football field. Who we're playing, how good are they?
Growing up in Parkersburg, you dreamt about being out there on the field on Friday nights and playing for Coach Thomas.
He arrived in 1975, the new football coach in Parkersburg, Iowa, just 25 years old. Over the next 36 years, Ed Thomas would win 292 games, 2 state titles, and be named National High School Coach of the Year by the NFL. He sent 4 players to the pros, but more importantly, turned generations of Parkersburg boys into men. Men like Dave Becker, the captain of Ed Thomas's first Falcon team.
We had our meeting and the rules were announced. We were going to work harder than anyone else. Fourth quarter would be ours. He convinced us we could be winners.
He had the gift of getting kids to elevate their game to a level that they never thought they were even capable of.
He expected more out of his football players, that they were going to set the example of how to act.
It was an experience that I wanted, when I become a young father, for each one of my kids to have.
I want them to learn all the intangibles that goes with athletics that are going to make them a better husband, a better dad, a better member in their community and their church, just a better citizen.
Never were those lessons more important than May 25th, 2008.
Talking massive disruption, large gas leaks, flattened houses. I'm very serious. They need to get here and shut down this area.
In just a matter of seconds, the tornado destroyed hundreds of homes and killed 8 people.
A big part of my life is this school. As you look at our athletic facilities, all destroyed, we're going to rebuild. Because I don't know how else you deal with it, but to move forward.
With his own house amid the rubble, Ed Thomas guided Parkersburg out of the wreckage. Flanked by his current and former players, Thomas led a cleanup effort with an ambitious goal: restore the football field in time for the Falcons' home opener, just 100 days away.
He just set the tone very early, and we were going to dust ourselves off. We were going to help each other, and we were going to get through this.
I asked him, Coach, what can I do? He said, well, we have to get all them bleachers off the football field. And he put his hand on my shoulder and said, Dave, I'll leave you in charge of that.
Alongside the football field being rebuilt, we were rebuilding our town, so it was an end goal to look forward to kind of that fall, that we could do something normal, because nothing was normal that year.
And so on September 5th, with seemingly every one of Parkersburg's 1,900 citizens in the stands and a national audience watching on TV, Ed Thomas gathered his team in a makeshift locker room known as the Bus Barn.
Every player that's ever played on that field, I guarantee you, is thinking about you tonight. Fellas, I've been in this for 36 years. I've had some tremendous experiences. Nothing is going to be greater than going out there tonight. Where you from?
Just the fact they could play through that devastation and the team, the way they came together.
Good luck, Becker!
It was definitely emotional, especially after the summer we went through.
There's no question in my mind we will be a better school, and a better community than we ever were before. Thank you.
Big night. Well done.
Coach Thomas led the Falcons to an 11-1 record that season. And as winter turned to spring and then summer, the town began to look like itself again. Last June, a little more than a year after the tornado, the football team resumed early morning workouts back in the bus barn.
When you're done lifting, you just tell him you're done lifting, and he would say, see you later. Just see you, coach, just like every other day.
County 911.
We had I think a shooting right now in the bus barn down at the high school.
In the bus barn?
Yeah. Kids had come running out and said somebody shot Ed Thomas.
Okay.
Just a few moments after Scott Becker drove away, unbeknownst to him, his older brother Mark, a former Falcon starting lineman who had been recently diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, walked into the bus barn and in front of 22 students, pulled out a gun and shot his former coach 7 times.
The chief of police told me that it was Ed and that he'd been shot in the head several times and he didn't want me to go in there. So I called Aaron then to let him know what was going on.
My mom is probably one of the calmest people I've ever met, but I could hear something in her breath. I knew it wasn't good.
It was already on CNN, and that's when we had found out that he had passed away.
And I instantly just started thinking about my boys. To tell a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and 6-year-old, how are you going to explain this?
It's kind of like you just get punched in the stomach.
I just told her, sorry, I couldn't be here.
The Thomases' world was shattered. Across town, another family would soon be stunned to learn that the killer was their own son.
My phone's ringing. I pick it up, and it's my neighbor saying, you better get home. There's a lot of squad cars flying up your driveway. A couple of the sheriff deputies filled me in on it was Mark. I can remember, obviously, kind of falling apart there.
I called my husband. Said, Dave, did you hear about Coach? And he said, Joan, you've got to get somebody to give you a ride home.
I couldn't wrap my mind around how a kid who Dad had taught and coached and reached out to would ever do something like this to him.
My son was responsible for taking such a good man. How do you get over that?
I wondered how this was all going to play out. How are we going to live tomorrow?
I was concerned about being able to live in this community.
The Thomas family immediately addressed those concerns when just hours after the murder, they held a press conference and made an appeal to the town.
Nothing can prepare you for what our family, our community is going through. We also want to make sure we express our concern and our compassion for the Becker family. We ask that people pray for them as well.
How do you stand up there and offer comfort and prayers to the family of the person who shot your dad? And it took a lot of courage for Aaron to do that.
Dad always taught us to lead by example. If we're going to tell somebody to reach out and support the Beckers, and if we're not doing it, that's not very good character.
The day after the murder, Aaron and Todd sought out Scott Becker, one of Coach Thomas's players, who was struggling to come to grips with what his older brother had done.
Our biggest concern, my brother and I, was just that for Scott to know this wasn't his fault.
Right away, they said, we're here with you. That was probably the first time I broke down.
Thousands came from across the country to Parkersburg for the funeral. But as the Thomas family mourned, they somehow found the strength to continue consoling the Beckers.
This is a note that Jan gave to an usher, and it says, give to Joan Becker. Joan, Dave, and boys, we love you and are here too. Hang in there, Jan T. I'll never take this out of my Bible. Compassion is the driving force in their family. We had hundreds and hundreds of people come to our home. They would say, we just left the Thomases. Jan said to be sure and give you her love.
I went down to the mailbox, and it's every square inch of stuff full of thinking of you cards. That's when I realized that it was going to be okay in the community.
2 months after the murder, the Beckers returned to Ed Thomas Field to watch their youngest son, Scott, play football again, now led by a new generation of Thomases.
As we approached the crowd, of course they turned and looked and just started hugging. Once that kickoff took place, he said a feeling it's going to be okay. I know Coach wasn't there, but he was there. And it was Falcon football once again.
The three things that mattered to Ed Thomas the most were faith, family, and Falcon football. And he dedicated his life to sharing them with the citizens of Parkersburg. Today, a year after his death, his family is left to carry on without him. But just like Coach, they have led by example, showing uncommon strength, faith, and compassion at the darkest of times, revealing the power of forgiveness not just to a town, but the world far beyond it. And it is through the dignity and courage of his family that Ed Thomas's legacy lives on.
I'll never be my dad, but if I can have some of the impact he had, I'll feel that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
There's no doubt we have been faced with adversity. We made our choice on how we're going to react to it.
My hope for the future is to be high school kids again, to just get to be small town Iowa, to move forward but not forget my dad and what he's taught us.
So that gives you at least a little background of how we are here today, where we are, how this thing kind of got started. And for me, I can tell you, as a third grader, I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. As a third grader, I knew I wanted to be a teacher and a coach if I couldn't play in the NFL. And the NFL thing did not work out for me. Okay? The reason I knew that, third grade, when I finally got to go to football practice and my mother didn't have to be with me. All right? I got to go up, hang around my dad each and every day, and I got to see, you see, as a third grader, I didn't think my dad had a job. I thought he just really liked getting up at 6 o'clock, going to open the weight room, hanging out with high school kids, teaching all day, and then going to football practice. Because the one thing I noticed about my dad, he never ever complained about school. He absolutely loved it. He never ever missed days of school. He was never homesick, ever. If one of us kids were home, it was my mom staying home. My dad was never. He loved what he did. And as a third grader, you don't understand passion, okay? And you don't understand impact. But I knew my dad loved what he did every day, and I also started to notice he made a difference and he had an impact. And I wanted that. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be just like my dad as a third grader. I can tell you unashamedly, that was my thought process. So I listened, and I was intent on things I'd hear when I was at football practice, either from my dad or from Coach Kearns. And they always say things like, you never know when you're going to have an opportunity, and you never know when you're going to have a platform. But you got to be ready to make the most of those opportunities in your platform. For me, I always thought, platforms and opportunities. If I work as hard as I can, that gives me opportunities. For me, in high school, I can honestly tell you, I didn't have one sip of alcohol, didn't smoke anything, okay? I was 100% committed. Sports were a big part of my life. AB student, had great friends, great teammates, but I wanted to accomplish and achieve everything that we could. So I had, so fortunate, I played in the state basketball tournament. Played in the state, my best sports moment was playing in the state championship football game when my dad coached me. Best moment I had, ran the state track meet. Everything I thought was important, I was able to accomplish. And I thought my platforms and opportunities, I was team captain, all those things, so my peers would listen to me, my classmates, because I did what's right, because I worked hard. I was preparing myself to have platforms and opportunities. But I learned a lot more about platforms and opportunities. In 2005, AP had 4 guys playing in the NFL. And so all of a sudden the New York Times and ESPN come and they do a piece on our football program and on my dad and all these different things. And because of that, my dad wins the National High School Football Coach of the Year award. So my parents get to go to the Super Bowl that year. All right? And they go into a banquet room and there's all these Hall of Fame football people. Guys my dad grew up, Franco Harris and Joe Namath and all these Hall of Fame football. And they said, Ed, you got 15 minutes to talk about whatever you want to talk about. Okay, 15 minutes. You can talk football philosophy. You can talk about your 4 NFL guys, 15 minutes. He said, well, I'm going to talk about what I'm most proud of. And he talked about Parkersburg, Iowa. As my Uncle Greg once told me after my father passed, my dad truly believed that Appleton-Parkersburg and Parkersburg was the best place on earth. And as my uncle said, he truly believed the entire world revolves around our town and everybody else has to adjust to what's good. And that was my dad's mentality. But he made this a special place. Prior to my dad coming here, they had 1 winning football season. In the 34 years he was here, they only had 1 losing season. Because he thought this was somewhere great, and because of it, every young person that went to school here, that was taught by him, or that got coached by him, thought they were from a great place that was somewhere special. Because of it, that's why I'm back here. Okay, I was at a great place prior to my father being murdered. I was at Union High School. I was becoming my own person. My own Coach Thomas, we were having success in basketball. I worked for one of my best friends. It was awesome. But then that moment happened. Okay? Platform opportunity. So a positive thing. 4 NFL guys, ESPN comes, New York Times. My dad's larger platform, however, came May 25th, 2008, when an EF5 tornado destroyed 1/3 of our town, completely destroyed our high school, killed 7 people in our community that day. All of a sudden, every major news network in the entire country's here with cameras. A guy who'd been here for 34 years, my dad's the guy doing all the interviews. Okay? His platform, his opportunity that day had nothing to do with positive. It's because he no longer had a home. Everything my parents owned was pretty much destroyed. And he no longer had a place to go to work the next day. But my dad's message, he was an extreme optimist almost to a fault. But his message that day was, hey, Parkersburg's going to be better after this tornado than it was before. And he wholeheartedly believed it. But his opportunity, his platform, it came not because of anything positive. It's because of the worst day in our community's history. All right? For me, little did I know, and so we start cleaning up, and my dad says Parkersburg's going to be better, and all of a sudden, I guarantee you, almost every school in this room sent young people to come help out and to clean up. And young people, here's what I'm going to tell you. We live in a special place, because only in the Midwest and only in Iowa would a town that was completely destroyed have 2,000 volunteers every day show up here to help when they couldn't get paid, and all Parkersburg could say is thank you for coming. I've spoken in California, New York, Texas, Florida, all these places. When I tell them we had 2,000 volunteers come help, because in Iowa, when somebody needs help, that's just what we do. They looked at me like I was from another planet, because it's not like that everywhere. Okay? People don't care about their neighbors. They don't care about anybody but themselves when you start getting out wider from where we're at. So be appreciative of where it is you're from. All right? And nothing meant more to my dad during that tornado cleanup than when he saw former students showing up that hadn't been to Parkersburg 10, 20, 30 years. Because my dad taught government and economics, and one lesson that got taught to every single class he had that was not in our textbook was that you never forget where you came from. Never forget where you came from. And you take pride in that. And he got teary-eyed. He cried when he saw former students who he realized had not forgot about Parkersburg. We had teachers who lived in Missouri and Colorado. They got in their cars and they drove back home to come help out. We had lawyers from Texas getting his on a plane and come back home. Our 4 NFL guys were all in mini camp at that time. All 4 of those guys could have easily just wrote my dad a check. Hey, here's some money. You know, hope things are going well. But all 4 of those guys, they got on a plane and they flew back to Parkersburg because Parkersburg mattered to them. And young people, I don't care where you end up. If you go to the great big cities and you go do great big things, that's fine. But you make sure you take your community with you. You take Clayton Ridge, you take North Butler, you take Union, you take Cal, you take, I know I'm missing a bunch of you. Take that with you. Because our world's got plenty of Chicago, it's got plenty of Los Angeles. What it needs is a lot more of Iowa. A lot more people who take pride in where they're from and what they do. The day we're loading up everything that can be saved from our football equipment. Half the high school was destroyed. Somehow where the football equipment was, didn't get destroyed. So we're loading up all the shoulder pads, all the helmets. We're putting in the back of kids' trucks to drive it over to Applington where our middle school's at. And as we're getting ready to go, the Des Moines Register's there that day, and they're following my dad around with a recorder. And he's doing all these interviews, and we close the truck doors, everything's loaded. I said, Dad, why do you keep doing all these interviews? We could have been done with this. We could have been on to the next thing. And as only your dad can do, he gave me one of these. He said, Aaron, let me tell you something. Anybody can lead when things are going smooth. Who you are as a person gets revealed when you're faced with adversity. He said, I've had things so easy here at AP since 1975. And now that I've been faced with something tough, people are going to look to see who I really am and how I respond to this. That stuck with me because little did I know my platform, my opportunity was going to come 13 months later. June 24th, 2009, I was with Mr. Fleshner at Union High School as assistant principal. We're driving down to Des Moines. We're between Ames and Ankeny. I'll never forget, 7:56 that morning, my mom calls. I look at my cell phone, answer the phone call. My mom says, Aaron, somebody came in the weight room. They shot your dad. It doesn't look very good. We're going to try to get him stabilized, airlifted to Iowa City. I need you to get a hold of your brother. I need you to get a hold of your dad's siblings. I got to go. I'll call you when I know more. Okay? So that moment obviously changed my life forever. So my platform opportunity, we got to get a hold of my brother Todd, who's in Jamaica at a college roommate's wedding. He hears about 5 minutes before he sees on CNN what had happened to our dad. Get a hold of my dad's siblings, and they let my grandma Thomas know, who still lives down in Whatcheer. Get another call from my mom, tell me my father to come to Covenant Medical Center. And so I go to Waterloo, and I have a couple moments. My dad had passed away, have the opportunity to go in and see him. For me, I needed that. That was the beginning of my healing. I needed to go in, have a couple moments with my dad. Talked to my brother about 6 months later. He said, Aaron, I needed to be as far away as I could be where nobody knew me. I couldn't have dealt with it. So we had a 13-hour plane flight to get back here. He needed that time. And young people, here's what I'm going to tell you. Every person deals with adversity and tragedy differently. There is no right way to deal with things. Everybody's different, okay? And we need to respect that from one another. Here's the other thing I'm going to tell you. Right after the tornado and after my dad's murder, again, we had 22 young people. So imagine 22 of you being in the weight room, somebody you respect, somebody coming in and shooting them 7 times. That time we had over half our students receiving counseling out of our communities from either the EF5 tornado or from dealing with my father's death. And I want to tell you this, young people, there is nothing wrong with getting help if you need it. The biggest tragedy that happens, 2010, we had one of our students take their own life. That student didn't think they had friends, didn't think they made a difference, didn't have an impact, and I will tell you, I saw friends and people absolutely crushed at that decision she made. Okay? There's no right or wrong. The only wrong is if you take that ultimate measure that you can't reverse. Don't be afraid to reach out. I promise you there's people in your school who want to help you. Okay? My platform, my opportunity, I go in, I have a press conference with 100 media people in the elementary gym. Because they said, hey, we need a press release. We need a statement from your family. Back to being in 3rd grade, wanting to be just like my dad, I told my mom, hey, I'll go do the press conference. So I stand up there that day, I start talking. 2 things I can tell you. One, I was in complete shock what had happened. Nothing had sank in that my father was actually gone. We hadn't had a murder in Parkersburg since 1923. So never in my wildest imagination did I think I'd be in the midst of that. I couldn't have dreamed up June 24th, 2009, but I will tell you, I was prepared for it. How was I prepared? I had 2 great parents who loved me, who showed me how to deal with adversity, who disciplined me when I was your age, and they held me accountable. I also came from great friends, and I had a ton of support. And those people came around me, and they encouraged me, and I knew they'd be there for me to get me through that thing. Okay? Back to my dad's word. Anybody can lead when things are going well. That's not leadership. Leadership gets revealed when you're faced with tough moments and tough situations. If you're on a sports team and you're winning every basketball game or every football game or whatever you're in, if you're in the music, and your show choir and everything's going smooth, that doesn't take leadership to keep people going the right direction. When true leadership shows up is all of a sudden if we've lost 2 in a row. All of a sudden we got people start getting selfish about I'm not getting the ball enough. Or in football, I should be starting over so-and-so. And then all of a sudden, who can take charge and become the leader and make sure it's about team first? That's leadership. Okay? Leadership. Other things I see in school, you say, oh, I'm not in sports, I'm not in this. How about this one? Nothing irritates me more than social media posts. In my opinion, there's nothing more cowardly than to go on Twitter and say something negative about somebody else when I'm doing it on my phone in my house and I know I don't even have to see that person. Even more cowardly is this thing called Yik Yak, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. You want to talk about the ultimate coward? I'm going to post things and nobody's ever going to know who's sending it. That is not leadership. Leaders figure out where that's coming from and they get it stopped. That way our culture is what it is. We don't do that here. We work hard here. We're about team here. It's about all of us, not just me. That's leadership. It's not, I'm a captain of the football team, we're undefeated. That takes no skill. Anybody can do that. Adults, that's our challenge as well. I learned so much about that from my dad because one thing I noticed with him, he really believed in servant leadership. You're saying servant leadership, what is that? Here's what it is. Every time AP won a football game, and the newspapers or whoever had asked my dad would say, our assistant coaches and our players did an unbelievable job tonight. They're the reason we won. Nights when we happened to get beat, my dad's interview, I didn't have this team ready to go. I didn't have us prepared. Do you hear the difference? Success, we give it to everybody else and we share it. Failures, we take the responsibility. Unfortunately, in our society, it's more common when we win, I did this, I did that. When we lose, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, I don't know why. We told them that play was coming. That doesn't take leadership. Point fingers, my teammate, he got burnt. It wasn't me, I didn't do it, he didn't do it. What type of leader are you? You won't find out till you get faced with tough times. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about adversity. Because young people, I had the 30 easiest years of life a person could possibly have. 2-parent home, love, support, and discipline. Had everything that I needed. Okay, maybe not everything I wanted, but later in life I learned that was a good thing, that my mom and dad didn't give me everything I ever wanted. Okay, that they held me accountable. Those were good things. It prepared me. And what about leader? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Every person in this auditorium, I promise you this, we will all lose loved ones. Every one of us. And we don't always get to pick when or why or how. And nor do we always get the goodbye we wish we had. But we do get to decide how we're going to remember that person, how we're going to honor them, how they're going to live through us. You get to decide that. The other thing I can promise you is things are going to happen to you that you do not ask for and you do not deserve. Okay? You may have relationships go bad. Okay? Someday you might lose a job. You might have people at school saying things about you that are not true. Okay? You may even be abused. Not one person in here deserves to be abused, but I guarantee you somebody in here it's happened. And unfortunately, while we don't choose everything that happens to us, we are the only ones who get to decide how we respond in those moments. And when you're faced with those tough moments, 3 things that helped me get through losing my father. I was 30 years old before I had any true adversity in my life. Cakewalk, 30 years. But here's what I'm going to tell you. First thing that I truly believe when we go through adversity, number 1, life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I choose to respond. You see, lost my dad. I could feel sorry for myself. I could be bitter and I could be angry. I could be poor me and, I can't believe somebody killed my dad and blah, blah, blah. But I can be as mad as I want to be about my dad being gone, and the bottom line, he's still going to be gone. It's not going to change. The only difference is I'd be cheating my 3 boys out of the dad they deserve. I'd be cheating my wife the husband she deserves. And those young people I get to be the principal for here at AP, and the guys I get to coach in basketball would be getting cheated, the coach and the educational leader, all for something I can't change. Mark Becker decided to take my dad, but I'm not going to let him determine who I'm going to be. I'm not going to get stuck in June 24, 2009 the rest of my life. I'm not going to give it that much power. I will tell you, there's not a day that goes by I don't think about June 24, 2009. But it can't change. All I can do is become better because of it. All I can do is try to honor my dad in how I act and how I lead and the things I can do. And young people, that is no different, because every person in this auditorium, you're all going to have your own June 24th, 2009. I hope it's not a murder, but for some of you, unfortunately, it's going to be something worse. I guarantee it. How do you respond to that? You don't forget about it. It's like a scar that never goes away, but only you get to decide on what are you going to do with it. By choosing to respond in the manner in which our family did, I've been blessed with unbelievable experiences and opportunities. Right after that press conference, because of that, Sports Illustrated comes. My dad was the first high school coach ever on the cover of Sports Illustrated magazine. Told my dad's story across our country. We get invited to the ESPYs. That piece I showed you earlier, ESPY Awards. 22 of our family members, closest friends, flown out to Los Angeles. And as a young person, I probably left the state of Iowa 3 times my entire youth. Got to go watch the Cubs play twice. We went up to watch the Twins play once. We didn't travel a lot. Okay? So you can imagine the excitement, 22 of us flown out to Los Angeles, nicest hotels, nicest restaurants. We had the biggest entourage at the ESPYs this year. LeBron James, we had more people than he did at the ESPYs. Unbelievable experience. My kids, they sit in the front row of a Cubs-Dodgers game. They were going to throw out the first pitch, but our plane got delayed. My kids, they get to go to Disney for free. They get to go swim in the ocean. I go to the ESPYs. I see every sports star you could ever imagine. That video clip showed to my dad, and all of a sudden I got Drew Brees and all these pro athletes coming down talking to our family about my dad. Unbelievable experience. All because on June 24th, 2009, the worst day of our life, how we chose to respond. Young people, those opportunities and those platforms are not always positive. But you got to be prepared to make the most of it, because people will watch you when you're faced with adversity. The second thing to remember when we go through tough times and tough situations is somebody out there always has it worse than we do. And that 100% includes me. I had a great dad for 30 years. Am I going to complain because I only had 30 years of a great father? My dad was the son of an alcoholic. His first 18 years of life were absolutely nothing like mine. My grandpa Thomas went and watched my dad play maybe 2 sporting events my dad's entire career. My grandpa Thomas came and watched me almost every single time I was anywhere near him when he could come get. My Uncle Greg, my grandpa stopped drinking. He didn't miss my uncle's activities. Okay? My dad died at 58, never had a drop of alcohol. Not one sip. Did that change his childhood? Nope. But it made mine an awful lot better. He decided he was going to be different. So am I going to complain because I only had 30 years of a great dad? When there's people no relationships with their dad? Had a teammate at Drake University, Dante Harris from Seattle, Washington. Dante grew up in foster care his entire life, okay? Not with a foster family, a foster facility, all right? Every Drake basketball game, I had the opportunity to play college basketball at Drake. I'd have 2 parents sitting up in the nap center cheering me on, taking me out to eat after, bringing me cookies and all this stuff, telling me we played well even if we didn't because we didn't win a whole lot, okay? They were always there. So at 30, am I going to call Dante Harris and say, hey, can you believe somebody killed my dad? When here's a guy who never, ever had a dad? It's about perspective, young people. Because I can promise you this. In your high schools, I promise you, I can go get kids from even other schools in Iowa who wish they got to go to your school, that wish they had your teachers, that wish they had your facilities. And it's your job to be grateful for what it is you have, not complain about what we don't have. To take pride in what it is we have to make our place special. Because I promise you, somebody out there would love to trade places with you. The third thing when we get faced with adversity that I truly believe is this. The greatest gift God's given to any of us is the power to choose. And every day you have the ability to make choices. The first decision, in my opinion, you make every single day is what is my attitude for this day. Because young people, here's what I'm going to tell you about attitude. Attitude, nobody else gets to decide it for you. You don't need money to have a good attitude. It doesn't come with fancy titles as principal or teacher or CEO or anything else. You are the only person who determines your attitude each and every day. And the other thing I'm going to tell you about attitude is this. Your attitude impacts every single person you come in contact with that day. You're going to make everybody else either have a little bit better day or a little bit worse day, and only you get to make that decision. And it's all on your attitude. I guarantee you, if you talk about the leaders in your school, the teachers you most like to be around, one thing they have is a positive attitude. I learned a lot about attitude after my father was killed. I'm at Union, like I told you, things were great. I was going to stay there, okay? I wanted to stay there. Got asked, Mr. Kearns, come talk to me 2 days after my dad had passed. We met with the high school football team here in Parkersburg. He said, Aaron, I got to meet with the school board later today. They're going to ask for my recommendation. He said, any chance you'd be willing to come back here, take your dad's job as the AD? And I'll tell you first, I wanted no part of that. Smaller school, less money. I didn't want to see that bus bar down there each and every day. I didn't want people telling me, oh, your dad would have done this or your dad did that. I didn't want any of that. Okay? Started thinking about the other side of the coin. Talked to my wife about it. Talked about my mom and how much she enjoyed having her 3 grandkids around and maybe we could help her. Talked about the 22 young people who were in that weight room and experienced that day. And then those words my dad constantly said of never forget where you came from. Was I not going to come back to AP because it was going to be a little bit hard for me on the day AP needed me the most? So we ended up moving back here. Union was great to me, let me out of my contract, worked with me, and I came back home. Wasn't always easy.
5 minutes, Coach Thomas.
Thank you. Wasn't always easy. But it was the right decision. Because young people, here's what I'm going to tell you. What's right is not always easy, and what's easy is not always right. Okay? What's right is not always easy, and what's easy is not always right. Sometimes you got to make the right decision, even if other people are going to question you, even if other people don't agree with you, even if it's not always in your best interest. And that takes toughness. Coach Kearns, who you're going to hear later, he defines toughness this way. Toughness is doing what's right all the time. I want you to think about that definition for a minute. Doing what's right all the time. How many people in here are tough and can honestly say in each and every situation, each and every moment, they are tough? Because what's that look like to me? That looks like to me when I go out in our lunchroom in the morning and I don't quite have all my math assignment done, I'm tough enough to not sit there and copy my neighbors. I know that only happens at AP High School, nowhere else. I know I'm tough enough that I prepare for every moment, every test to give my absolute best. That in situations where maybe I could take something or do something nobody would ever find out, I'm still tough enough to make the right decision. That is toughness. And that's something that's not always easy. But our attitude, we get to determine that. Each and every day, we get to decide, what is our attitude? Is it going to help people? Is it going to hurt people? The last thought I want to hit on quickly, because I'm running low on time, okay? I hear so often from young people, nobody cares what I think. I'm just a high school kid. I don't matter. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I think you are the most influential people in your entire community. And here's why I say that. Tell me one other activity that can fill an entire auditorium except a high school musical or a concert. Tell me one other activity that happens in your town that can fill an entire gymnasium or entire football field that students aren't involved in. You see, you represent your communities. You represent your communities. Your adults are known by you. Most of the towns in here, I don't know what businesses you have in your town, but I can tell you about either a sports team or a show choir or a band or something of that nature, FFA program. That's what your community is known by. I can tell you which schools that I think have good sportsmanship and where the kids, and I think the whole town is just like that. When you put on a uniform or a jersey, young people, you are not representing just yourself. You represent your entire team, you represent your entire school, but more importantly, you represent your entire community. That is an obligation. That is a responsibility. That is something not to be taken lightly. So how you handle those things is how your community gets looked at. So that's the adult side. More importantly, the biggest thing I don't think high schoolers always understand. The young people at the elementary, they want to be just like you. Is that something we want repeated? I'll never forget the first time my oldest son, Owen, was getting ready to go play a competitive basketball game. We were going to go up to North Butler for the Green League. Okay? I get home from high school basketball practice that morning. I walk through the door and I get there and I see my son with black socks to here, shorts to here, a sweatshirt, and headphones. I don't dress like that. Who did he want to be like? He wanted to be like my high school basketball players. And young people, here's what I'm going to tell you. How you talk to your friends when you're at Casey's or Quick Star or you're at the pool in the summer, that's what every young person is going to be saying and doing that same time. How you respond in a sporting event when you're called for a foul, if you make a basket, if you get sacked, that's what's going to happen on the playground that next day. So if you're flailing your arms and acting like you're pointing at your teammates and everything else, that's what's going to be emulated down there. We had the opportunity to play in the state basketball tournament. And I will tell you, every time I drove by our elementary, there's 1 million kids out there playing basketball because they want to be our guys. And I know that because I have 3 kids. I have a 6th grader, I have a 3rd grader, and I have a 1st grader. And we play Nerf basketball almost every night. And they are Jake Shipper, Nick Waller, Nick Ellis, Cade Alberts, all of our guys. All of our guys. They don't care. They'd rather be our guys than the Iowa Hawkeyes, the Iowa State Cyclones. You have no idea the power you have in your own communities. And if you think nobody pays attention, you are 100% wrong. And it's not just the star athletes. My kids see every high school kid, how they respond. Students in the fan who are cheering on their teammates. If you boo, they will boo. If you swear, they will swear, because that is what's cool. That is a responsibility. You have a platform, you have an opportunity. Are you making that platform an opportunity and maximizing it? Are you setting a poor example that I'm going to see for the next 8, 10, 12 years when that group's now in high school? I got a poem I'm going to share with you about this. And I think this is in your leadership booklet. It says, "Little eyes upon you. There are little eyes upon you, and they're watching you day and night. There are little ears that so quickly take in every word you say. There are little hands all eager to do anything you do, and a little person who's dreaming of the day they'll be like you. You're the little person's idol. You're the wisest of the wise. In their little mind, about you no suspicion ever rise. They believe in you devoutly and hold all that you say and do. They will say and do it your way when they grow up just like you. There's a wide-eyed little person who believes you're always right, and their eyes are always open and they're watching day and night. You are setting the example every day in all you do, for the little person is waiting to grow up to be just like you." And young people, I'm telling you, if you don't think those elementary kids pay attention, you are crazy. You want to know one of the hardest things I ever had to do as a dad so far? Had a young person on our team get caught with alcohol. I had to sit out with games. My middle child, who's all about sports, he says, "Dad, why so-and-so can't play tonight?" What I want to do is say, you go ask them. Have that high schooler explain to you why they decided to be selfish, put themselves ahead of the team, and go out and make bad decisions. Little eyes are watching you. You all have platforms. You all have opportunities. I'm going to close with this, young people. You may be able to fool mom and dad. You can probably fool your teachers, your coaches. You know, you can be in here saying the right things when you're in school, pretending I'm the leader, okay? you're probably, more than likely, not going to fool the people you're sitting with. Okay? They know who you are. They know if you're a front runner. They know if you just put on that face when adults are around, that you're not fooling them. You're not going to have any respect if that's it. But the one person I promise you will never ever fool. Every morning when you wake up and you look in that mirror, you will never fool yourself. Or every night before you go to bed and you look in your mirror, you won't fool yourself if you gave your absolute best. If you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing. If you're truly that person who stands for something, can't fool yourself. And if pretty soon you just stop looking in the mirror because you don't like it. Well, young people, here's what I'm going to tell you. Nothing says today can't be the day you change. Today can't be the day you decide I'm going to do things the right way. I'm going to be involved. I'm going to stand up and do what's right and be a leader within my community, within my school. Yes, there's going to be people who will question you. Maybe I made bad decisions on the weekend. Yes, those same people are going to, hey, what are you doing Friday night? What do you say we go out? And the first time you say no, that's going to be a little bit tough. Second time becomes a little bit easier. Third time, easier. Fifth time, they stop asking because they know you're about something. You're not just going to give in and follow and go with the flow. You all have opportunities. You all have platforms. Make sure you make a difference. Make sure you make the most of it. I'm so thankful you all came. I hope you got something out of what I talked about. If not, we got 3 more great speakers. Mr. Kearns, are we taking a quick break?
We got about 10 minutes.
Okay, so here's what we got. Okay, out both doors. You can even go out this side door. When you go out, down the hallway to your right's the bathrooms. Okay, there's also drinking fountains posted there.